Welcome back to 101 East, in conversation today with the newly elected Member of Parliament for Permatang Pau, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Thanks for staying with us. Some people are saying that the agenda that you have set yourself is almost impossible to achieve. It's an enormous task that you are proposing. Tell us exactly what your priorities are going to be.
First, when we said there is a possibility of us taking over the government in the last elections, or taking over some provincial governments, most analysts, including the smarter ones, said it's impossible because the system are all geared to their advantage and so oppressive. But we manage, which means the level of maturity of Malaysians is impressive. Now, we are saying that the public clamor for change and the demand is so huge, so immense, there's very little that the government can do to hold, short of making this under emergency rule or the Mugabe method. That's why I'm very confident that change will take place.
It's quite plausible to assume that this government can carry on as it's doing until the next election. It has the support in Parliament, unless you can come through with what you have been hinting at for some time, which is a massive crossover of ruling party members to your side. How are you going to achieve that?
Precisely, with the MPs, particularly from Sabah and Sarawak, know fairly well the general sentiment are so much against the ruling establishment. They become so racist in their overtones. They have been, the economy is sluggish, without any direction. Corruption is endemic, and they have used what they promised have not been delivered, including the institution of the judiciary.
Of course, but can you tell me specifically and exactly the number of people who you are going to tempt away and when this will happen? Because you've set yourself a very ambitious deadline.
This is a major strategy. If I say the number and the names, they will get people and
just the number will do.
We have adequate numbers, and that is important. I think we should go across that simple majority. It is important that that this is achieved for the country.
And you're confident that change will come by September the 16th, at which point you will become Prime Minister?
By September the 16th, we're expected to have some major and dramatic change in this country. And following that, of course, the person who commands the majority of the House will be asked to become the Prime Minister.
How do you see the future of the current Prime Minister?
Well, he's sliding on like a Titanic after the accident. It's just waiting to sink.
You mentioned before about the strength and the weight of the opposition that is still gathered against you. The party machinery is formidable. And some people that I've been speaking to have been saying that ultimately you may too finally be swallowed by that. Consensus building is the heart of politics, and unless you take into account the other opinion, it's going to be very tough for you. To what extent do you think you're going to have to modify what you've been saying to take account of the other party?
I wouldn't deny the fact that in the spirit of coalition and building consensus, you make some adjustments. But the fundamental issues, including those enshrined in the Constitution, the framing and crafting of a national agenda, that we will not concede. That the country must move to become a free democratic country. That the country must ensure that justice prevails, and you do not discriminate against any communities, including the marginalized and the minorities.
But we're talking about Parliament here and centres of power, and you have already said that much of it is corrupt and much of it is rotten. You're going to have to deal with those elements. In doing so, you might have to make deals with those elements. How would you balance the priorities?
Well, I don't know whether we have to make a deal. Look, say assuming we take over, what do we do with the judiciary? If we can establish the judges are clearly, blatantly corrupt, we can't get them to adjudicate cases, pure and simple. But there are many judges who are competent, incredible. I'm not suggesting the system that applies to everyone. The police, let us take the police force, which is one of the most unprofessional and corrupt system here. Okay, minus the few, I mean the rest, there are many. Very professional.
But can you tell us specifically how you plan to weed out the bad from the good, particularly in the judiciary? What specific measures do you think you can take that will gain the support of the rest of Parliament?
Our coalition, the Pakatan Rakyat, the opposition, have made some specific recommendations. Judicial Commission of looking at the role and conduct of the judges. Where even cases we differ with them, it's not a problem. I mean, they can decide against us, but they cannot decide against the law and the constitution. I tell you, we have resources in Malaysia among Malays, Chinese, Indians, Ibans and Kadaz are enormous. We should choose the best among them, not the most rotten and corrupt among them.
The coalition that you already have supporting your agenda seems fractured, or at least creaking a little bit. There are most definitely some agendas there that are in open conflict with each other, and they have come together just for the moment. How strongly do you feel that they will stay together to make a unified government?
The moment, this is already 5 months, and they were working well. Well, there are some differences over minor issues or policies. But,
well, I mean, let me put a major issue of policy that you surely will face should you become Prime Minister, and that is PAS, the Islamic Party, asking now for reward in supporting you in the form of what has always been their policy agenda, which is a more Islamic state.
They made very clear they are not asking for the formation of Islamic State. They want Muslims to be allowed to practice Islam. I have no problem with that. The Democratic Action Party, the Chinese Party, have no problem with that. The problem is some specific issues over, say, apostasy or conversion, which we can deal with it through further deliberation, getting the law to be tightened and clear. I don't see that a problem at all.
So you think you can align the Islamic demands of PAS and the secular demands of the DAP without causing a fracture in your party?
There is tension, of course. I mean, we have Malays, Chinese, Indians, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, and don't expect any tension, then life will be extremely dull in Malaysia. You expect some excitement, but it will not fracture. This is my important
Some
point.
people say you should be careful what you wish for, because it's the one thing that the other party have always warned of, is that too much excitement on the racial scene in Malaysia could boil over into something that you don't want to see. How worried are you that removing the new economic policy, the racially focused economic policies that are in place, may cause the kind of friction that the BN has always worried of?
The UMNO has called me pro-Chinese because of my call to dismantle the obsolete economic policy and move towards a reform agenda. Now, they have been proven wrong because large number of Malays want this change, because the new economic policy, we explained to them, is not against the Malays, it's on enriching the few.
So, I mean, what you're saying is that you are committed to the removal of that policy. Can you tell us, is that your number one priority?
Well, together with governance against corruption, but it's tied to this economic policy, because you see billions have been met in the name of economic policy to enrich the few. I am for affirmative action based on need. The vast majority of Muslims need to be given the support, education, economic opportunities, but based on need.
And you can reconcile the racial divisions while taking away the economic preferentiality that exists?
Yes, because the Malaysian economic agenda would be more beneficial to the marginalized and the poor, and the majority of the Malays come under that category.
You are in a way breaking some new ground here. The 50 years of Malaysia as a nation state, almost 51 years now, has been under the dominance of one ideology, if you like, one consensus politics. Removing that will cause a certain amount of uncertainty, won't it?
Not uncertainties. We should not underestimate the wisdom of the masses. within the confines of the law, respecting different religions and cultures, you can actually exploit this to the betterment of Malaysians. No Chinese or Indian generally even dispute the fact that Islam is the religion of the Federation, or Malay is the official language of this country. And we want Malays and Muslims not to dispute the fact that the mushrooming of other religions and languages should be promoted.
There we're going to have to leave it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.